63% of Australians are today overweight or obese. Let's have a look at the liver. You may have seen pictures of your liver. Basically looks a little bit like this. And your liver, as the project manager, determines what and how waste comes out of your body. And your liver, as your project manager, also has jurisdiction over everything that comes into the body. So let's first of all look at food. Never in the history of mankind have human beings eaten so many carbohydrates.
This is Barbara O'Neill, a famous health expert known worldwide. In this video, Barbara O'Neill discusses the liver's role as the body's project manager for waste disposal and nutrient absorption. She explains that the liver determines what and how waste leaves the body and has jurisdiction over everything that enters it. When the liver receives excess glucose on a high-carbohydrate diet, it converts some of it into glycogen for quick energy use and stores the rest as fat.
What are carbohydrates? Let's make an assessment here. Carbohydrates. What would most Australians have started the day with? We know because there's a whole aisle devoted to it. Cereal. Cereal is Aussie's favourite breakfast, and sometimes toast. You can buy bread in every corner shop. It's a very abundant food. And because cereal and bread doesn't take you far, mid-morning, many are going to the cakes, the biscuits, maybe a pie. Australians love their pies. And Europeans have introduced Australians to pizza, another fast food, and pasta, the very popular pasta. I'm a fifth-generation Australian with Scottish descent. I didn't know what pasta was till I was about 18. I don't think there's an Australian today that doesn't know what pasta is. Popular food. Rice. Asians have introduced Australians to rice. Potatoes. My husband's an Irishman. He loves potatoes. And then last and certainly least in nutritive value is the pure crystallized acid that was extracted from the sugarcane field. Would you agree with me? Australians are high carbohydrate consumers.
Carbohydrates are one of the three main macronutrients, along with proteins and fats, that provide energy to the body. They are found in foods like grains, fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, sugar, during digestion, which is then used as a primary energy source for cells. Carbohydrates, when consumed, are broken down into glucose, which the liver processes to maintain blood sugar levels and store as glycogen. When carbohydrate intake exceeds the liver's storage capacity, excess glucose is converted into fat through a process called lipogenesis. High consumption of simple sugars, particularly fructose, can lead to fat accumulation in the liver, contributing to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. Over time, excessive fat buildup can cause liver inflammation and insulin resistance, increasing the risk of metabolic conditions like type 2 diabetes. Balanced carbohydrate intake, especially from complex sources, supports healthy liver function.
This morning I talked about the gastrointestinal tract. I talked about how it's a hollow tube, and anything that goes into that hollow tube is not part of you or me until it gets broken down to tiny substances and then absorbed into the blood. Well, it is the liver that determines where that tiny substance goes. It is glucose. All of these foods break down in the gastrointestinal tract to glucose. Once glucose gets into the blood, it goes on the M1 main highway straight to project manager. It's called the portal vein. And then the project manager, your liver, determines where that glucose goes. The first place it will send glucose is to the cell. Let's have a look. Here is cell. Glucose gets sent into the cell. When it goes into the cell, it goes through a 20-step pathway. And that 20-step pathway gives us 2 units of energy. And I think we all realise that that's what glucose is for energy. The end result of that 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. Pyruvate is the chemical form of glucose that gets fed into the powerhouse, called the powerhouse because this 8-step pathway delivers to us a whopping 36 units of the big E energy. Whoa, what a difference. And why the difference? The difference is oxygen. This pathway uses oxygen. This pathway does not use oxygen. For the technical amongst us, this is the glycolytic pathway. This is the mitochondria, specifically the Krebs cycle. What a difference oxygen makes. By the way, how are you going to feel if every single one of your 100 trillion cells has got enough oxygen coming in so that it can get down to there? You're going to feel good. We're not going to be able to hold you down. But we're not going to look at oxygen today. We're going to look at oxygen tomorrow. Right now, we're looking at the fate of glucose. So number one, the first place that the liver will send this glucose is to the cell to be burnt as fuel. But on a high carbohydrate diet, there is still a lot of glucose left over. And so now, this is specifically the muscle cell. It stores this glucose like a little bunch of grapes. They're little molecules of glucose, and they're called glycogen. Glycogen is a name given to quick-release glucose stores. That is what our body uses on our morning walk. I don't know about you, but when I get up in the morning, I have a few glasses of water and then I go for my morning walk. Do you ever wonder where you get the energy to do your morning walk when all you've had is water? It is your glycogen stores, specifically in your muscle cell. And those glycogen stores in your muscle cell, it's like they're in a prison. They can only be used by your muscle cell. But the liver can store glycogen too. And the glycogen stored in the liver can be used all over the body. So it can be a fantastic reserve supply for your brain. But on a high carbohydrate diet, releasing a lot of glucose, we still have glucose left over. Even when it's been fed through the energy cycle, even when it's been stored as glycogen, and only so much glycogen can be stored. Now the body, specifically the liver, sends it over to the most amazing fuel depot in the human body. It's called fat. And in many Aussies today, the glucose keeps coming, and the body, as we talked about earlier, gets into a habit. And shunt, the glucose gets into the habit of all just going over to the fat cells. And what's happening to most Aussies today? They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Did you know that we've overtaken America? 63% of Australians are today overweight or obese. So this is the third place that the liver sends the glucose to be stored as fat. This is a fact many do not realise. It was only about 6 months ago, Time magazine, front page of Time magazine, it said, "Butter, why we were wrong on the fat." And a recent Catalyst show said its title was Fat or Fiction. It is starting to be acknowledged, what I'm showing you today, that fat's not the problem. The problem is this high carbohydrate diet that many Aussies are consuming is being stored as copious amounts of fat. And often when people want to lose weight, they stop the fat. But the fat's not the problem. The problem is this high carbohydrate diet.
A high-carbohydrate diet, especially one rich in refined carbs like bread, pasta, and sugary snacks, causes rapid spikes in blood sugar and insulin levels, leading to fat storage and potential weight gain. For weight loss, reducing carbohydrate intake is important because it helps lower insulin levels, which promotes fat burning rather than fat storage. Additionally, cutting down on carbs stabilizes blood sugar, reducing hunger and cravings. By consuming fewer carbs, the body is encouraged to burn stored fat for energy, making it an effective strategy for losing weight.
Forcing the body to store the excess as fat stores. And so what happens now is the person's getting big, and it could be like a man I met about a year ago who told me that he went to his doctor and his doctor said, "You're overweight, your blood pressure's too high, your cholesterol levels are too high, your blood pressure's going too high, you're going to have to go on some medication." He said, just let me see what I can do first. And the doctor said, "Okay, I'll suggest you stop all fat in your diet." He went home. He was only having a little bit of fat. He stopped the fat. And when the fat stops, the person gets hungry. And so they eat a lot of carbohydrate. That's what usually happens, because that's one of the roles of fat in digestion, is to give the feeling of satiation or satisfaction. He said 3 months later he went back to the doctor, he'd lost 1 kilo. What does that mean when you're 150 kilos? Not much. Doctor said, no, we're going to have to put you on medication. Lee said, nah, give me another try. He said, I'm a business analyst, and if something doesn't work, you don't keep doing it. He said, so I went home and did a Google search. I came up with the paleo diet. I came up with the GAP diet. I came up with Grain Brain. I came up with bodybuilding.com. He said, I came up with the FODMAP diet. I came up with Atkins diet. And he said, what got me about all of these authors, majority of them doctors, with many years of clinical practice up their sleeve, they're all saying the same thing. And what does the proverb say? In a multitude of counsellors, there is safety. They are all saying that the problem's not the fat, the problem is the carbohydrates.
As we've learned, the liver plays an essential role in managing our body's waste disposal and nutrient absorption, and it's clear that the choices we make in our diet directly affect its function. By reducing excess carbohydrates and focusing on nutrient-rich foods like fiber, healthy fats, and proteins, we can support not only our liver, but our overall health. Remember, small changes like incorporating more vegetables, staying hydrated, reducing stress, and using natural remedies such as castor oil compresses can make a big difference. Take care of your liver, and it will take care of you. Thank you for watching, and if you found this information helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on natural health and wellness. Until next time, stay healthy and be well.